Today we're going to finish the geometry of Florida, and we're going to start from the south, and we're going to start from this point. Is there nothing there? So we have to dive below the sea level. Do you see it there? Many people believe that there are likely to be underwater alien or military bases in similar areas. That is possible, but not in this case. These are most likely fragments of beams from a structure that was once above water and carried stone slabs. Not all of them are visible. Some lie under sediments, but also under a layer of rock. Because, as we have already explained, a certain amount of water on Earth, including animals, was petrified during a global cataclysm. We'll visit some interesting places here and then move north to the Florida swamps. We're looking at Naval Air Station Key West. But how was this airport built? Do you see all of the sinkholes and swamps? It was built on these beams. Look at that. It's the same structure we saw a moment ago under the sea surface. Here it looks like some bridges over the crack, but again, these will be traces of beams, albeit considerably damaged. Even a few slabs have been preserved here. In fact, these islands have an unusual geometric shape, as they are original carved slabs with numerous water channels. Some of them have only been preserved partially. Look at this little island. It's oval in shape and it probably has its own supporting structure. Some of these supporting structures have been discovered in South America. Let's take a look at it. The area is located in Chile and is the Pedro de Valdivia mine. Nitrates and other minerals are mined here. I believe that many minerals on Earth are not native, but were created due to adverse conditions, such as heat, pressure, or high radioactivity. We are looking at the uncovering of this structure, and the oval beams are very clearly visible. In the middle are green fields, which indicate the presence of groundwater in this area, despite being located in one of the driest deserts in the world. As you can see, there are still traces of water channels. You can find angles, circles, and strange notches. I don't think this is today's technology. Would today's machines be able to do this? It should be noted that these channels were carved into stone, as Plato describes. Let's look at another interesting place. You might think that there is nothing interesting here, but the opposite is true. It was once a landmass, and the watercourses, or rather their fragments, are still visible. Houses have been rebuilt on the fragments of the part that is still above sea level. Most likely, they are supported by a thick stone beam, a remnant of a global truss. Essentially, these are huge sinkholes. The slabs are missing because the structure that supported them is also missing. I keep talking about the stone tablets that the Bible mentions, but you don't find their number in the Bible. They are only spoken of in the plural, and that's why they are shown as two. It's the same with the pillars of Hercules. I believe that the so-called tectonic plates are identical to these plates. Many of them were swept away by the biblical tsunami. What's more, our entire world was built on water. The land is actually in constant motion. Look at this. These are very regular notches. It is very likely that part of the prehistoric plate has been preserved here. I'll highlight them. They're additional parts of the supporting structure, and you'll notice how they connect to the infrastructure on the right. It's another example of how these ancient beams are being used to build cities today. And here we have more clues. The beams are missing here because they were cut. Isn't that possible? These beams were most likely made of basalt, which is mentioned in the Bible and is found in many places around the world. They form strangely shaped rock formations. We'll talk more about that someday. No, it is definitely not a creation of nature, because the formation of basalt formations shaped like this has never been observed in history. You can also see here how these lines are used to build roads. On the left side of the image, they disappear into the wetlands. They are still there, just like on land on many of the world's continents. A very long section of a preserved beam was discovered here. This place resembles a piece of lace that has been torn from the hole. Do you see the water canals? Here it continued further on land, but the plate was broken and disappeared below the water surface. And also notice the little squares in the shape of butterfly antennae that we showed in the last part. Do you see that exact shape? Wow! Look at this. It's basically a carved square island with a visible channel around it. The area has sunk. More specifically, part of the plate has sunk, and there are no visible channels anymore. The surrounding area is covered in sediment at a shallow depth below the water surface. And now we're going to look at something very dramatic. We are looking at the original structure of the beam, to which other smaller structures were connected. Everything that is now below sea level was originally at or above the level of this structure. The smaller connecting beams are no longer there. It is clearly visible where the beam was cut. These missing sections are now replaced by bridges. Note the seabed, which in these places indicates strong currents and water pressure. We see the same situation in two other places, and again, it looks like the seabed is showing some kind of devastation. But this seabed used to be a continental plate that sank. You can see where the beams were torn apart, and today bridges have replaced them. And here we have a similar situation. In places where the supporting structure is supported by rock, it has been preserved. However, bridges had to be built over the water. These bridges essentially replaced the missing parts of the beam. When I talk about rock in this case, I mean, of course, calcareous sediments, and there are probably still fragments of plates here. This beam, which was probably the main beam, still has fragments of the original slabs attached to it, on which the new buildings stand today. Look at the remains of the cross beams that stick out into the sea here. In many cases, they are modified and serve as breakwaters in ports around the world. And here's another area of sunken land. The entire structure has collapsed, including the slabs. What we're looking at is calcified debris, but if you look closely, you can see something on the sea floor. We will now move north to the mainland, to the Florida swamps. Mainland is probably not the right name because the continents still lie on water. On flowing water or on petrified water. Take your pick. Here we are near Homestead. As you can see, the mining activity creates regular shaped pools here. And you can see that under the top, originally swampy layer, white limestone is emerging. There are several of them here. They copy the lines that are clearly visible. You would probably expect and muddy water here, but this one has a beautiful deep blue color, thanks to its limestone preservation. These pools are dug along the geometric lines found here. They were part of a swamp. Further north, we can see the buildings and notice the geometry. The strips of water alternate with the strips of land. Remember? In some places, water is absent. This area gets its geometric shape from how the bottom slabs were carved and how thoroughly the limestone was removed. On the left, you can see an area that is being cleared of vegetation. A white area appears. Now let's look at the big picture, which I will highlight. Unbelievable, right? It's the same view as the wreckage of the truss structure we saw further south on the seabed. Some of the trusses end abruptly. They've either been torn off or have sunk deeper below the surface. Let's look somewhere else. And here's another structure. It seems to be just being uncovered, as we'll see in a moment. And here are more fragments among the vegetation. It is also faintly visible here and is probably a continuation of the construction on the left. Water appears here. It could be a water channel. And up here it's already regular. Of course, it may not be a channel, but a trace of a disappeared beam. On the left, the urban development appears, which literally looks like lace. And notice again, strips of land alternate with strips of water. Look at this. Here again we have these little squares in the shape of butterfly antennae. They're everywhere. These are intruding into the greenery, and it's likely that this geometry will continue around here if it's been preserved here. Here's an example of how roads are built in this area. This road uses one of the strongest surviving beams. The places where other smaller beams were attached are still visible, but they appear to have been torn out. Two watercourses run parallel to this beam, which could also be traces of a missing construction. And here, these gaps have been bridged. In these places, another beam structure was originally connected. Everything was originally filled with white limestone. This is where the windows appear. It is an area of very well-preserved lattice work. Some places have already succumbed to erosion and are forming sinkholes. Do you see it there? The structure of this geometric grid is revealed by the vegetation that has taken root on it. Strips of water alternate with strips of land. The baseball fields you see here have been hidden here for thousands of years. If you're interested in seeing how real baseball fields are built, check out my older video titled How a Baseball Field is Made, Denver. You'll be amazed. Because I don't want the video to be too long and boring, we'll quickly show you a few more interesting things in the swamps. You can search for them yourself. It's really interesting. It's also clearly visible here. You can see that there is a swampy wasteland all around, but these lines are clear because of the vegetation. There is groundwater beneath the surface. That doesn't look like a road. And here again is a small part of the supporting structure. And another piece to the puzzle. There's something here that I can't describe. Try to see something in it. The picture shows the beams that connect to these islands, if I may call them that. Nice mosaic, right? You can find similar ones all over the world. As far as the North American continent is concerned, you can probably find the most of these fields, as well as circles, in New Mexico. It's as if someone had drawn the entire area. Some fields are already starting to sink in. Can you see it there? These are traces of supporting beams, but some smaller ones are missing. Given the age of this structure and the catastrophic event, this structure is of course incomplete and severely deformed. However, it seems that the destructive forces acted unevenly on this area. In some places we see this devastation. In others, the plates and their geometry are well preserved. Here we look at the cut beams again. They are white stumps sticking out of another beam. They look very chaotic. They are twisted and have been part of the swamp for millennia. We've reached the east coast of Florida. See the contrast? On the left, a pristine marshland, and suddenly, this strange geometry appears. Maybe not strange, but admirable. It resembles lace. Some might think it resembles a printed circuit board. But why is this unusual geometry only visible from great height? People below can only see water and land, strips of land alternating with strips of water. But not everything was completely cleared of sediment. Here we look at another island where the vegetation is cleared and white limestone appears. There is a song that says that Atlantis was white. That may be true, but it was not made of limestone. In my opinion, the slabs could have been travertine, like some of the fountains with divine scenes that you find in Italy, for example, or in Roman architecture. But that is just my guess. Wow, look at that. It's incredible. And imagine if it could look like that all over the world. And then you find the same geometry, for example, on the North African coast. This lacy geometry with circular cities embedded in it. It must have been beautiful. But apparently not everything has been restored here. Some windows are filled in quite simply, which could mean that the original stone slabs have not been preserved. Did you notice anything else? Yes, here we have those little squares shaped like butterfly antennae again. We find them not only on the North American continent, but also elsewhere in the world. Strange, right? I think it's time to say goodbye. Since we keep coming back to the circular supporting structure, that is, to those Plato's circles and bridges, we will look at the circular structure next time in Bolivia. We will look at the area in great detail, because what we will see here will surely surprise some of you. Traces of destroyed biblical cities are not often found, but we will see them, even though they no longer resemble cities. So don't miss the next video. Until then, have a great time.